Alright, so we got the full summary for 1116 here, and we're finding out that Joy Boy himself had planned to pass on all 3 ancient weapons to the later generations, which we didn't know before. That's pretty wild. It implies that maybe Joy Boy had control of all 3 at one point, and we'll talk about that. And also, it appears that everyone is mad at Roger for not saying anything and speaking up about the information that he obtained about the Void Century and all that stuff. Well, not everyone. Maybe it's like 50-50, but I don't know. Me personally, I'm kind of indifferent towards Roger, and I'll talk more about that later, so let's just get into it because we're going over the full chapter here as always. So it starts where the last one ended. We can see more reactions about Vegapunk's words all over the world. People are asking about the war from 800 years ago. They say the war from 800 years ago is still going on. Where? But no one from that time is even alive anymore. Why is a war that no one knows of still going on, Vegapunk? And as Vegapunk continues, we see Emu in the room of flowers, walking to a portrait half hidden in shadow, of course, of a lady who looks similar to Vivi. And Emu says the iconic ellipses, which is very popular in this arc. So we talked about this in the previous video about this chapter, and that it's very likely that Emu is looking at a portrait of Lily, who was like the Vivi from the Void Century, like the original Nefertari princess, or one of them. And a wild theory that's kind of popular is that Emu possibly swapped bodies with Lily using Law's Devil Fruit, the Ope no Mi. A previous user of it, of course, used it. And that same user or another user performed the perpetual youth surgery onto Emu so that they can live forever. And that is why the war is still going on, because Emu is still alive, as well as the Gorosei. We don't know why the Gorosei are still alive. It doesn't seem like they had the surgery performed on them, but it probably has something to do with Emu, or I don't know, some demonic magic that's been forgotten about. But why did Emu have to swap with Lily? It's possible that Lily had some kind of supernatural hereditary power to like control Uranus or something like that. You know, it's similar to how Shirahoshi became Poseidon and now can essentially control the Sea Kings. I don't know, it's a little rough right now considering that we don't really have too much info, but that seems to be somewhat of a solid theory at this point, I guess. Cut to Alabasta, and we see Igarum and Karu crying over Vivi's missing poster. Pell and Chaka are standing next to King Cobra's tomb. We also talked about this. They don't know that Vivi is alive yet, but we, the audience, do. She's currently hiding with Morgans after she was able to escape the reverie with the help of Wapol. Vegapunk reveals that he realized a fraction of the Mother Flame was stolen, and it was used to fuel one of the ancient weapons. As he speaks about ancient weapons, we see Momonosuke and Crocodile. Vegapunk says Lugia Kingdom was destroyed by an ancient weapon activated with the Mother Flame. I'm so sorry for letting the ancient weapons be revived. I don't know who used it, but I'm totally sure the world is at risk of flooding again. So that is interesting that Vegapunk knows so much and knows so little at the same time. So he keeps referring to Uranus as the ancient weapon, which implies that he doesn't know that it's Uranus? I mean, can't he just use process of elimination? I mean, surely he has to know of Pluton and Poseidon, right? Unless he doesn't, and everybody else knows about them in this world? Well, not everybody, but you know, the main important characters. And just by using that, you'd be like, okay, so it wasn't Pluton since it came from the sky, and it wasn't Poseidon since it didn't involve Sea King, so it was probably Uranus. Unless he just doesn't know any of that somehow. And then also him saying that he doesn't know who used it confirms that Vegapunk doesn't even know who Emu is. So there's that. Cut to New Marineford, where we can see Sengoku and Suru reactions. Sengoku is stuffing lots of Okaki in his mouth in stress, lol. And we see Aki Inu too. He's burning a cigar in his hand. And he says, so you're really saying everything, Vegapunk? That's interesting. Does Aki Inu know some of this stuff by him saying like, so you're really saying everything? Or does he just assume that there's secrets and he doesn't know about it because he's just trying to stick to his justice ideals? Not really sure, but I'll keep saying it until it happens. And I think that Aki Inu is eventually going to have a face turn, you know, probably in the final arc. So I don't think he'll be on board with all of the truth that's being spilled here, especially once it's revealed to him and he can't really deny that it is the truth. Back to Egghead Island, Stussy asked Edison to allow her to let Kanku go because she saw Cypherpole agents falling to the middle of the island with no way to escape. So yeah, this happened in the previous chapter when Venus Juro slashed friggin' Egghead in half in a really cool sequence. Edison apologizes for ordering her to betray Cypherpole. He knows Stussy really sees them as friends, but her loyalty to Vegapunk is also real. He says, such conflict in your heart is what makes you human, Stussy. York is shocked that Stella knew about the Mother Flame being stolen, since she didn't synchronize any of her secret activities to Punk Records. So this clears up a few things. York was the one who siphoned some of the Mother Flame and gave it to the Gorosei to give to Imu to fuel Uranus so that it could destroy, I guess, Lugia and maybe some other stuff, whatever they needed to do, you know, before they were able to get the full Mother Flame, I guess. And this just clears Vegapunk of any more wrongdoing, I guess, because we were thinking, like, if Vegapunk's such a good guy, why was he making the Mother Flame to essentially create, like, a nuclear weapon in this world? But no, it was York secretly doing it behind his back because she was the traitor the whole time, of course, and wanted to join the Gorosei and become a Celestial Dragon, which she still might do, depending on what happens in the next couple chapters. York deduces that since Vegapunk knew the world government is coming for him, he wouldn't just hide the special Denden Mushi. Then York calls to the 5 elders. She says, I know where the special Denden Mushi is. The ancient robot is currently protecting it. So that's really interesting. And I think this is where the final battle of this arc is going to take place, I guess. It's going to be like the Gorosei taking on the ancient robot. And that's going to allow the Straw Hats and the Giants and everyone else to finally escape this darn island and move on to the next arc. Ancient Robot, pretty powerful so far. I mean, he was Joy Boy's boy, and he's comprised of the ancient kingdom's technology, which is like unparalleled, essentially, right? We haven't really seen anything affect him yet. So either they're going to have to all work together and high diff him, or he's just going to run out of power again or something, which will eventually cut off the broadcast, but the damage is already done, essentially. Vegapunk reveals that Joy Boy planned to pass on all 3 ancient weapons to later generations. Vegapunk doesn't understand why Joy Boy tried to do such a thing, and that's why he cannot say which side is good or evil in this conflict. And he says, but that will become clear one day, and on that day, the world will be risked at flooding again. This is my warning. So, like I said before, Vegapunk is kind of an idiot. It's pretty clear who is good and evil in this conflict, and if Joy Boy, who he literally calls the hero of this story, is going to pass on the 3 ancient weapons, it's obviously not for something nefarious. Pretty sure he's passing on the ancient weapons because they need to be used to resolve whatever Emu caused. They probably have to be used to destroy the Red Line or undo what Emu has done to the world and the oceans and all that stuff. And like I said in the beginning, this also kind of implies that maybe Joy Boy originally had control over all 3 ancient weapons, or maybe all 3 ancient weapons were in the hands of the good guys, the guys that were taking on the Alliance, as it was referred to, the 20 kingdoms that came together to create the world government being led by Emu. Because if you look at the hieroglyphs that Enel looks at in his cover story, it kind of looks like the people from the moon came down to try to take over the world because their world, like the moon and whatever other satellite planets they came from, ran out of resources, and the humans, or the earthlings, used the ancient weapons to like defeat them, and they ran away. And then I guess, you know, whatever happens in the Void Century with Joy Boy dying and Emu winning, Emu eventually gets control of Uranus, and then Wano is able to hide Pluton, and then I guess Poseidon dies or something, and it eventually, you know, is reincarnated as Shirahoshi. Speaking of her, we see Shirahoshi and Fishman reaction when Vegapunk talks about Joy Boy passing on the ancient weapons. Then Vegapunk's message continues. He says, there are still many mysteries about the Void Century, but there is one group of people that knows everything, the Pirate King and his crew. As Vegapunk talks about the Roger Pirates, we see Crocus and Twin Cape. Then we cut to Sabaody Archipelago. People are seeing Vegapunk's broadcasts in the city. Vegapunk says they learned the truth about that part of history. Why did they disappear without telling anyone anything? Why didn't they act? Cut to Shaki's ripoff bar in the last page of the chapter, and Shaki is beating up a pirate while she talks with Rayleigh. She says, Ray-san, you're drinking too much. It isn't like you getting drunk like that. And Rayleigh is sitting on the stool with his head on top of the bar. He's getting drunk. And he says, ugh, I'm just an old geezer now. And you talk too much, Vegapunk. An old man like you. Shouldn't ruin the young generation's excitement, idiot. In the last panel of the chapter, Rayleigh places his drink on the bar while he smiles and gets nostalgic. He says, now it's their fun, right, Roger? And the editor of the chapter says, he who knows the truth simply laughs. Okay, so this is where we get into the controversy. Is Roger right or is he wrong? Because, you know, we know that the Roger Pirates reach Laugh Tale. And when they got there, Roger laughed. One of the most iconic panels in the entire series. And it's like, why didn't Roger act? He didn't really do anything. He kind of just allowed himself to be executed by the world government because he was going to die from his disease anyway. And then he was just like, hey, everybody, the One Piece is real. Go out and get it, I guess. And I talked about this before, but it's like Roger should have at least said something. Now, granted, Roger is Roger. He's portrayed as like a hero and a good guy, but I don't know, maybe he's more of a gray area character. Maybe he doesn't really feel that he needs to save the world or expose all of this stuff to everyone. Maybe he thought it was just a better idea to let things resolve itself, because that's literally what he does. He's like, it'll just take care of itself. You know, Joy Boy, the Messiah, will be reincarnated in Luffy. He'll eventually eat the Nika fruit, and then, you know, Poseidon will be born, and then they'll all fix it. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna let all of this genocide, suffering, assault, slavery, you know, just continuing the world to be in darkness for like another 20 years or so. It'll be fine. And I talked about how, you know, he could have asked Toki to send him into the future and resolve things that way. And, you know, I don't want to get too much into those semantics because I don't think Oda really cared enough to even address that possible aspect of things happening. Even though Toki wasted her fruit, sending the Scabbards and Momonosuke into the future, but whatever. I'm more curious to hear what you guys think about what Roger should have done or what he shouldn't have did. I'm not saying raid Mary Joie because it really is debatable if he could have even done that. Even then, you know, they said that they were too early, meaning that I guess they needed Poseidon, which wasn't born yet. And they also needed somebody to probably have the Nika fruit, which they probably could have found if they really wanted to. And then they needed to find Pluton. But I digress. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. And if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.